It's evolution, baby.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs Evolution series. In each episode, we'll look at the timeline of live performances to see how they've grown and changed throughout the years.
It's evolution, baby.
This week, we'll talk about Yellow Ledbetter, a staple of the setlist that's been a popular closer since 1994. So strap in and get ready to take a dive through history, because it's not just songs, it's evolution, baby. Hello everybody, welcome to Live on Four Legs, the definitive Pearl Jam live podcast. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. It's going to be kind of a special episode. We're not going to go through and do a full concert like we usually do. We're going to try something a little bit different and see if it works and see if we're going to continue doing it from now on. I'm here today. It's Randy Sobel, by the way. I have to introduce myself every time. I continue to forget it. I won't forget anymore. Randy Sobel here. John Farrar's over there.
Hello.
Hi, John.
Is this like a very special episode, like when Full House, when Kimmy Gibbler would do drugs or something? Is this going to be one of those?
I don't know. Do you have any pot?
I do not.
Okay, then I guess not. I guess we're going to have to stay straight on this
Okay.
one. But I think this is more along the lines of, it's like kind of... It's not a clip. It's like an infomercial almost. At least this episode is an infomercial.
So it's the ShamWow of Live on Four Legs.
Yeah, 100%. Because you're not going to get this as an actual episode every week or every other week. This is what we plan to do for Patreon. So what we wanted to do was kind of show you guys what we're doing here, and that this is going to be exclusive to Patreon for new episodes. And
so I have a
see if you guys like it.
question.
See if you sticks.
What's
Yes.
Patreon? Explain that.
Well, John, Patreon is a feature where we have our own link on it, and you can go to our page, and it's a way to help out budding podcasts or YouTube channels that usually have funds for things, and your donation for Patreon goes to us, and we put it back into the show, which is usually putting it back into stuff for you guys anyway. So with that, you get exclusive episodes that we've done a couple of so far, and actually right now as we speak, there should be another one of these on Patreon. So if you're into this episode, you want more, head over to Patreon, and it only costs $1. It only costs $1. That's all it costs. So if you feel like that you can help out the podcast, donate $1 a month, then we'd be more than appreciative of it. And you know what? For that, you know what you get.
What do you get?
You get a chance to come on the show to talk about your favorite concert you've ever been to. Pearl Jam wise, that is. And we've had so many people come on and talk about it already that I'm surprised that not more people have been chomping at the bit to get here. You got here.
Yeah,
look what happened to you. You climbed up the ladder.
They've all been great, and yeah. Look at me. I'm living proof, as they say.
You won the pyramid scheme, basically. I don't know how that worked, but
Well, no, thanks for having me again. I love the show. I love doing these. I think this is going to be really cool, and I look forward to doing a lot more of them.
Yeah, and we're not stopping anytime soon, and I think that it's fun. I like talking about these things, and I like breaking down small little specifics, and it kind of gives us the opportunity to talk about things that maybe Matt and I would have talked about in past episodes, but now since we're trying to trim things and trying to really get to the point in episodes so they're not 3 hours long now, this is an opportunity for us to take songs and really give them the spotlight that they deserve, and especially really for the first handful of episodes, it's going to be all Vitalogy or older. It's not going to be a lot of. We're not going to talk about the history of the Fixer or the history.
Hey, the Fixer is 10 years old now. Don't sell it short.
I'm not selling it short. It's a fine song. It is a catchy song, but as far as history
this
goes,
is just to say, real quick, this is a band that rewards a deep dive into their live shows like this. We're going to get a chance to talk about some shows that we haven't talked about, that we may not talk about for a little while, and get into some really minutia details that I think are going to end up being really cool for people to hear.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm excited to do it, and I'm excited to give it to you guys. So, without further ado, we have anything else that we want to promote? Any poster giveaways, something like that? Maybe
there's a poster giveaway. I think we might. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay, so how
should I drop a hint on the poster?
If they want a free poster, how can they get a free poster?
You can leave a 5-star review on iTunes or on the podcast platform of your choice. Just send us a screenshot or send us a link, and you will be entered in to win a free official Pearl Jam live poster that I have in my possession right now. I will give you a hint. The poster itself features an animal.
Ooh, that is
and that's
an
all
interesting hit.
Okay, drop a hint. And maybe I'll as we keep going, as we get closer, maybe I'll drop some more hints.
All right. It's an animal, folks. So if you'd rather be with an animal, head on over to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. Give us a little comment, too. Say something nice about the podcast. We like when people say nice things about us, and we say nice things about you guys all the time. You don't know what happens when we're off air. We're saying nice things about you guys all the time. How we want to give you free bootlegs and all that.
I think I've threatened to fight someone every time I've been on the show, but I don't
It's really basically just been Matt.
Mean it. Yeah, I think I threatened to fight Tom the other day.
That's an episode that's coming out next week.
Right,
and,
right. Stay tuned for that. I think I'm gonna try to drop that in every episode and see if someone actually picks me up on it someday. I may be getting myself into trouble, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, if the wrestling episode ever happens, then you might get your wish.
Oh, I can only hope.
So today's Evolution Baby episode that we're doing here is going to focus on Yellow Ledbetter. This is the first one. And really, the history of Yellow Ledbetter goes back to 1992, right?
Even before that, goes back to 1990, if we want to go back to the beginning. I mean, this is a song that, everybody knows that famous first show at the Off-Ramp, October 22nd, 1990. So they play that show. Eddie's still in Seattle. They go into the studio the next day, run through some more stuff, and this is an improv that I guess Mike had come up with on the spot. Maybe he'd been listening to a lot of Little Wing at the time, heavily influenced by that.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
So it's exactly. So they just run through it. Eddie throws some lyrics on top of it, something that he had, and they forgot about it. And then a couple of years later, we get to the Jeremy single. They need a B-side. Go through. They weren't recording any live stuff. They didn't have anything for the B-side. So if you'll go in your PJ20 book, they talk about it in the Lost Dogs chapter. Jeff, had a tape of some stuff that they recorded, went back, pulled the tape out, said, "What about this?" Pulled it out. It's a B-side to Jeremy. I had that. I paid $12.99 at Media Play for that import single that had Footsteps and Yellow Ledbetter on it. And, it became a crowd favorite instantly. People love the song. It was something super different for them. It probably should have been on 10, as I think they've said a few times, but it just didn't fit. And, they waited a long time to play it live, but it's worked its way into becoming one of the staples.
Yeah, and there's some discrepancy here based off of some stats that some people have, especially what the band's website has. I always, and this is free promotion for them, but I always go by Live Footsteps stats. LiveFootsteps.org. I mean, because I've talked to Dave about it, because he's so ingrained with it, and I've grilled him on it too, just to see why he picks the stats that he does, and it's because he goes through and he actually listens to the bootlegs, and he makes sure if there's only word of mouth on it, he makes sure that he doesn't take that necessarily as gospel.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky to have all these resources. We have Five Horizons, we have Live Footsteps, we have the Stat Tracker, and we kind of conglomerate those things together to get the full picture.
Right, and so if you go by,
but yeah, he does a great job.
He does a fantastic job, and this is what I emailed him about a couple months ago. If you go by Five Horizons, if you go by PearlJam.com, they'll all say that Madrid, February 15th, 1992, was either the first time they played it or the first time that it made an appearance. Now, there's no proof in 2019 that that's the case, besides basically retellings of the story, but
right, back then not everybody had an iPhone at the show.
Exactly,
it was more based on especially in Madrid, like nobody probably recorded that show. I have 3 songs from it, and that's it, and it doesn't include the little snippet of Yellow Ledbetter that they supposedly played.
And how many bands are doing this at the time? How many bands are basically going on stage and collecting their set list and making sure that, for future usage, we're going to keep this set list in our archives.
Right.
Like, bands aren't doing that at this time, especially
since
there's
and we're so lucky that they did that from the beginning. Like I would love to go to Jeff's house and look at that crate of stuff that he has.
I'm sure there's some absolutely filthy, disgusting gems in there. And by filthy and disgusting, I mean beautiful, glorious.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Getting off topic as I dream in dreamland there. So that Madrid show apparently had a snippet of Yellow Ledbetter after a live. It's an incomplete set list, so Dave at Live Footsteps does not count it towards the stats. The debut officially happened November 6th, 1993 in Mesa, Arizona. So this is
over a year after the single was released.
Over a year, and at that time, it became a radio hit, but I'm not sure at that time if it had started to circulate yet. It started.
I think that was later. I remember. I think it was later that it got picked up. It wasn't right from the beginning because you were still heavy into Jeremy and Even Flow and Alive. It wasn't until 95, 96 when there weren't really any radio singles. No Code didn't really have any radio singles.
Right.
So I think that's when radio stations started going back and what can we play? And people started requesting it, and it kind of that 95, 96 when it kind of took on a life of its own.
So times played, I have 373 here. Times used in an encore, 357. So out of those, quick math, what is that? I can't.
90% at least.
Yeah, right. 16 times that they didn't play it in an encore are probably set lists that don't have encores that are at festivals.
Right. Exactly.
So it's
really, and those early versions where it appeared early and there wasn't an encore.
Sure. So it's not like they're playing Blood and then into Yellow Ledbetter then into Porch. They're not doing stuff like that.
How weird would it be to go to a Pearl Jam show and hear Yellow Ledbetter in the middle of the first set?
So strange. I don't even know if they.
I can't even fathom it.
I mentioned to you before the show, what would it be like if they open with Ledbetter?
People would think it was just a one song set and they would leave.
See, I think
I guess the show's over.
Think about it though. I think it could actually work in a way if they played it and then played Corduroy right after.
Whew.
Does that
I don't know.
Does that not get you juiced? Does that not get you amped up?
Weird Pearl Jam is my favorite Pearl Jam, so I'd be into it. But it would be weird.
It's something right up their alley. I mean, they've opened with Alive before in 2006.
Right.
So anything can happen at any point. But times close with 338 out of the 373. So there, everybody really knows this, that it is the definitive closer of a Pearl Jam show. Every big show, or next to every big show that they've ever had from 1995 on, has pretty much closed with Ledbetter. But that's not really how it started. It really started in this Mesa, Arizona show, and if you listen to it, it's a B-side on the Daughter single, the live version. You listen to it, it's incredibly slow. It's just Mike and Eddie with kind of a weird tracking behind it with Dave, and it sounds like it just belongs in a club with 500 maximum people. It's not really, it doesn't get into sort of the groovy vibe that it has. It's just kind of stays flat, and I guess that at this point they're really just trying to figure out what they have with it and figure out their legs. But this early version, this debut, isn't exactly where it ended up.
We're getting Yellow Ledbetter with us. On the fourth side, on the front side, on the fourth side, I don't say that come out again. On the fourth side, on the wish it on the way, yeah. On the call when I say that I go, then I say that I don't leave.
It's a song that's opened up over the years, and at first I'm sure they probably had to go back and remember how to play it. He makes up different lyrics every time, and if I can read you something, if everybody will open their PJ20 books.
Page
the
number?
reason they 280. Mike talks about how they, a little reason why they weren't playing it at first. He says, quoting here, he says, "Back when we recorded it, we were playing short sets on Lollapalooza and stuff. We wanted to hit them with the really heavy, hard stuff, bam and get off. At club shows, we do the record and something like a cover of the Beatles' I've Got a Feeling. It just kind of got put on the back burner. We in the band forgot about it. But when it came back up, it began to seem like a bookend at the end of the show. Over the years, it's just gotten immense support, live specifically. People are just into it and they're singing it. I don't even know what the lyrics are. Depending on whatever's going through Ed's head that day, he'll change them. It does happen all the time where he throws in a different verse. I watch people singing it and they're passionate, and that makes me totally excited and humble. It turned into something without us even trying." So that's such a cool thing. It's one of those songs that, like, 93, like, if you listen to that Mesa show and the Denton show, as soon as he starts playing it, it gets a huge cheer. Like, people know the song. When it started appearing in 94, it became like it was something that appeared on set list as a request, or at a show where they would play rare stuff. There was a fan club show in 94 where they played it, and it kind of like it popped up sporadically at kind of like the cooler shows, and I think that kind of like helped people get a feel for it, helped the band realize, like, wait a minute, people really like this, we should start playing it. And on that 95 tour, it started popping up as a closer almost every night.
Yeah, I kind of, the version that I go back to with that is the Orpheum Theater one, because that was
definitely
a set list that was created by their crew, and at that point it had only been played 7 times and used twice as a closer. This is really late in the set that they're doing it, so and you can hear that the crowd is really into it. They're still figuring it out at that point, though. It's not quite where they want it to be. And I feel like you said, in 1995, you get Jack in the band, and they can sort of, it really is more of a Jack song and more of a Jack style where he can find a groove with it. And that's, you get all these shows, 41.9% of shows in 1995. Played 18 times. Closed with, it looks like here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It looks like 12 times out of the 18 that it was closed with that year. So they're not just playing around with it, but they're starting to realize how important it is and vital it is to the set, and what kind of reaction they're getting at the time.
Oh yeah, and it's only taken off from there. If you all throughout the late '90s into that 2000 tour, and we can talk about, we haven't gotten to these shows on the podcast yet, but the Mansfield shows in 2003, the experiment where they were going to play each song one time, have a unique set list at every show. When they got to the end of the last show, nobody left. People wouldn't leave, so they had to go on and play Ledbetter again so that people would go home.
We're just trying to play every song we played on tour, and we did play that one.
That was kind of the beginning of where it became like a celebration of the show, and people started looking for it. I myself, like, I got it at my first show in 1998, but I was 19 years old. I was just happy to be there. I was happy to get anything. And then when I saw them in 2012 in Atlanta, they didn't play it. 2013 Charlotte, they didn't play it. So it was one of those things that I really wanted to hear them play. And then I was lucky to get it in Memphis, the show that we were both at, and a bunch of times in 2016. And so it's one of those things that it gets a huge reaction every time. It's a celebration of the show. It's a chance for Mike to show off, and it's a chance for him to kind of play different things, tag it. There's been some great tags over the years.
When they were playing this in 95 and 96, it had that sort of kind of bluesy beat to it, but it didn't have that full energetic vibe that we get. Yeah. That's kind of the arena rock song that closes shows nowadays.
Because you think about it, it was still a B-side.
Sure,
it's not something that it was an afterthought. It's not something where they were like, oh, we really want to push this one because it's it's a single or it's on our new record or something.
Right.
It was just more like, oh, here's this B-side that we barely know and that doesn't really have lyrics.
Right, and it's popular and people want to hear it, and every single show they played it, except for one in 1996, it was closed with, and that was half their shows. Going to 1998, almost all of these shows, except for one, they closed with it.
Oh yeah, by that time it had definitely established itself.
It's established, but even so, 38.8% of the shows in 1998. It's not exactly, and it's not a guarantee, but it's pretty much a staple of their set.
It's always had to compete with Indifference and Rockin' in the Free World and Bob O'Reilly and things like that. It's always going to be one of those handful of songs.
It's really, I think, where it really comes into light and really shines here is really starting during the Binaural tour. It's played over half the time. It's closed with just about every single night, and
because a lot of those shows too. You think about it, in those tours, they were playing multiple nights in the same place,
right?
And they're not going to play it both times in one show. So getting it 40% of the shows means that they probably played it in almost every city.
Right. Jones Beach had 3 shows. West Palm Beach had 2 shows, and right. I'm sure those ones, you go back and look at the set list, Ledbetter was probably closed with night 3 of the Jones Beach one, same as the West Palm Beach, and there were a lot of those. Those numbers when you see just like 56%, it's not accurate as to how often that they were playing it, because all of, like you were saying, all of the places that they did play it, those people that went to both shows ended up hearing it. So, right. But what's kind of interesting about the early 2000s is it starts gearing up to be that arena rock song. It's starting to have some energy to it. It's starting to have a little bit more passion. You're starting to hear the crowd respond to it and kind of sway back and forth.
It opened up a lot. It became something that they played around with, and a lot of the lyrics during that time started to be about the Gulf War and
yep.
about topical things that were happening at the time.
And the
It became
Iraq
kind
War
of
as well.
a platform. Exactly. It became kind of a platform for him to talk about, issues, and the song kind of began as a song about a story about the Gulf War, where a guy, his brother dies in the war, and he has to come back, and he sees this old couple on their porch, and he waves to them, but they don't wave back. So he's like, "Well, what the fuck?" So it kind of like, it's kind of a nod to the early history of the song that he used it in that political way, Sure. And I love those versions.
Sure. I think especially like the Camden version, I believe, is sticking out to me from the Camden show in 2003. He completely changes the lyrics, and most of those shows, obviously there's always been a discrepancy over what the lyrics are, but he changed those lyrics. Instead of "don't know whether I'm the boxer or the bag," he changed it to "don't know if my brother's coming home in a box or a bag."
Something that I only think of in my head, and I try not to dream of it every night, but I still hear him, and that's alright. And I think of the letter that was in my hand. It said, "My brother's coming home in a box or a bag." Hey, hey, hey.
Significant to the time, and with the Iraq War going on, and how much that they were, protesting the Iraq War, it kind of gave them that platform at the end of the show to kind of subtly throw it in. It wasn't sort of, they weren't doing it to, necessarily
right,
push their views on people.
It's not a bush leaguer.
No,
but it's a way for them to express something that they feel strongly about.
Sure. And going back to the Mansfield one, that's perfect depiction of the time there, that they can go and they can play the Mansfield show and get it on night 1 or night 2 whenever they got it. I believe that was night 1, and then the crowd is staying there until the end, and they have to come out and they have to play it again. It's just kind of it's song number 45, like that.
And it's so perfect too, because this is totally a song, the history of it, that the fans owned, right? This is not a song that the band pushed. This is a song that us, the fans, pushed for and requested and reacted to, and it's such a special thing in their history. I think not many bands have songs like that.
No, I agree with you, and I think that every single time that you have a big show, a show that there's a lot of hype around, or a show that's in a big city, you get the rare songs that are kind of sprinkled in throughout. It feels like, and I'll go back to the MSG show that I went to in 2010, and all of these things were happening in the second encore. They bring out Ben Bridwell from Band of Horses to do Hunger Strike. They do Kick Out the Jams. They do a couple other things that were just kind of not in their repertoire, and it was such an exciting night that Ledbetter at the end, people were just like hugging each other, saying this is the best show that I've ever been to in my life. And I remember, my brother was taking video on his phone. This was like really early on in the stages of iPhones, and we were singing the whole song. I don't remember if he posted it anywhere. I would love to see if that clip is existent, but it just kind of, that my memory of that stands out, and just thinking about how that song really impacted and tied a bow on the whole night is just part of why the experience is so special.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the early mid 2000s, it started to become that celebration of the show, right? Where it gives everyone a chance to, because people know like this is going to be it. So it gives them a chance to show their appreciation for the band, gives the band a chance to show their appreciation for the crowd.
The house lights come up.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
know, it gives Mike a chance to take, have a minute for himself, to take the lead and do his thing. And, it just becomes, you get the band saying thank you, it's become that almost like one of the more special live songs, it's a way for them to say thank you for every show.
I go to the Verona show, 2006, and when I think of my favorite version that I've just kind of seen, throughout, covering this and seen on the internet, the Verona 06 one, I believe, was the one that they used for Imogen and Cornice. And it feels like the entire crowd is just on stage with the band. You can see in the band's eyes, like, they don't want to leave the stage. It's kind of like it's not just a goodbye. It's sort of it's sad in a way. It's wrapping up this this night, this 2 to 3 hours of basically amazing music that you'll never get back again.
Well, I think a big thing too in 2004, it was used in the last episode of Friends.
Yep, exactly.
And I think that exposed it to a whole new group of people.
So you get the girlfriends, the boyfriends, the friends of friends that go to these shows, and they know the lives and even flows. And after 2004, Friends last episode, all eyes are on it. That's another one that they know right away. And at that, even now on the radio, if I listen to FM radio, which I really don't anymore, it's one of 5 or maybe 6 Pearl Jam songs that's in heavy rotation on the regular 90s station. So
right, it might be the highest charting B-side of all time, or like one of the most popular B-sides of all time for any band.
We're going to have to check up the statistics on that, because that's really interesting.
Yeah, if you think about how many songs have had this long of a shelf life after just being a throwaway B-side on a single from the first album.
You. Wasn't Hey Jude a B-side?
It was released on the album as well.
It was not released on an album. It was definitely not an album song. I want to say it was like a single to get back or something like that.
I'm not a Beatles historian. We'll have to bring somebody.
If any of you are, please, liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com. We could use the help on this one, I suppose. But that's just, first thing that came to my head was, thinking that Hey Jude, one of the biggest songs that the Beatles had, and it wasn't even on any of their albums. Not necessarily sure if it was a B-side or what the history of that was, but just interesting, that case. So another big thing about this song and hearing it live is just the tags that you can hear from it. So what
again, in those mid 2000s, they started opening it up, started playing around with it, and it was like, what how can we make this more special? What else can we do with it? And there's some great ones.
So the Hawaii one, Honolulu 2006.
The end of that tour, and they comes out, Yellow Ledbetter ends the show, Mike starts playing Little Wing, the rest of the band is still on stage. A lot of times the rest of the band leaves the stage at the end, and they only come back to do, they all hug and do the bow. But at this point, you can see it on YouTube, the band's still on stage. They start looking at each other like he's playing the Little Wing. Jeff and Stone kind of kick in, like, look at each other. All right, we can do this. So the whole band starts playing it, and then Eddie comes up and starts singing the lyrics, and they go into like a couple of verses of Little Wing as a full band.
quite a night. Well, she's walking through the clouds when the sun gets shown that make me feel right.
I love it. Such a great little addition to it, and I know that there was a show that we did not too long ago where they teased Ledbetter and instead they did Little Wing, and that was a fun little way to finish a show too. But Little Wing has always kind of had this relationship with Yellow Ledbetter. Yellow Ledbetter's kind of its nephew or its son in a way, and it's Mike's ode to Jimi Hendrix.
And going back to the the political nature of it, a lot of times I think the most popular one is Star Spangled Banner, that they did a lot back in the mid 2000s, and it kind of, I think that was something that they consciously did. Again, another Hendrix reference, going back to his Woodstock performance.
Sure.
Another thing that fits in with the theme of the song perfectly.
And I looked to the first show that I went to, that MSG in 2008, and they finished out the night with that. But the one that really sticks out is the Philadelphia one from the closing of the Spectrum. And just, it feels like it's just their last little bit of energy. And Mike is putting everything into it to give them the last final, your last image of this historic arena, and it's the national anthem, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing. You can't ask for much better than that. It's cool, and it's kind of it's patriotic in a way, but it's also again kind of fits in with the nature of what they've done with it. So
yeah, I mean, from the beginning, Pearl Jam has always known their place in history, and they know the references that they came from, and you can tell by the songs that they cover. They know rock history, they know where they came from, where it's going, where they've been, and it's just a really special nod to the history of rock music that they would do that. And
the last stat that I have on this is it's kind of a boring stat, because it's kind of one that people be like, we know it's very obvious, but from 2006 until 2013, every show that it's played, until a San Diego show in 2013, it was closed with. So it was absolutely the center of attention, the staple of the night.
Oh, yeah.
And then, since 2013, it looks like 1, 2, 3 other times that they played it, they hadn't closed with it. So it is.
And you know what? I can tell you exactly what happened on those nights. It's like they did Ledbetter.
The crowd was still hot.
And then Eddie turned around and said, "Rockin' in the Freeway," or something else, and he turned around and went, "One more."
Right.
And so it was probably meant to close, but they pulled an audible and pulled out one more for the crowd at that night. Those shows.
Well, you look at one of them that they didn't close with. It was Wrigley of 2016, and it says song 35. So I think was it "I Got a Feeling" that they did after that? You were at that show.
I was there. Yeah, that was a great "I Got a Feeling," and it's something like that where it's where they turn around and go one more, and it's something like "I Got a Feeling" is something you don't get a lot in the 2000s. It's something they're going to pull out that's special for especially at a show like Wrigley.
Real quick, just this insane list of songs that they have they've used as tags. Star Spangled Banner, it looks like it's been tagged with around like 38 times. There's no specific number here. It's just kind of a chart. Little Wing, it looks like around 29 or so. And then everything else, Dance the Night Away, Nobody's Fault But Mine, Over the Hills and Far Away, so some Zeppelin there. Ain't Talking About Love, Purple Rain, Children of the Grave, Number of the Beast, which I believe was that MSG show that they did for Live at the Garden DVD.
Oh, yeah.
Because
those are all little special things that Mike pulls out at the end. Is like maybe a nod to the city, or a nod to the venue, or a nod to someone who's at the show, like maybe something like that. It's just that's all on Mike to pull those out at the end, and it's something special for those people that were there to hear it here at one time.
So I think that's the show right there. I think
we got it.
I think we evolved. We went from 1 year for all the way, back when ripped jeans were popular to today, where ripped jeans are popular, except they're $190 instead of just tearing them up with a switchblade.
I'll save that for the corduroy episode. We'll talk about the $600 jackets.
Yes. So if you like this episode, again, we ask you to go to patreon.com/liveonfourlegs. Head on over to our Patreon, donate whatever you can, subscribe, and you get another episode of Evolution Baby. It's Leash. So if you liked what you heard today and kind of liked our going over the timeline and kind of going over the history of the song and how it was played live, and we're going to keep doing this. I think it's a fun little project. Like I said, we're not really going to dive into Riot Act era stuff, because it's just not, they were a polished band by that time. It's going to mostly be Vitalogy and earlier. So
I may have a few wild cards up my sleeve. We'll see how.
Hey, we have a lot of time. We have a lot of songs. So. And we're not going to be releasing them every week. Maybe one every 2 or 3 weeks. We'll see how it goes, but it's definitely there's going to be a lot more than the episodes that we had exclusively that we had planned earlier in the year. That didn't quite go as we
can knock out a 5-minute Can't Deny Me Evolution episode.
It had some cowbell, and it was there.
Yep.
So. All right.
I think we just did it. Good job. We gave you that. That's a little bonus episode right there.
Yeah, exactly. You got to Can't Deny Me. So that's episode 2, and head on over to patreon.com to get episode 3 for Leash. So if you liked what you heard and you have a point that we didn't bring up, or a favorite version of Yellow Ledbetter, you can do one of 3 things. You can head on over to our Facebook and comment on any of our posts that have talked about this. You can head on over to our Instagram, comment on it, talk about it on any of the posts that we've mentioned it, or you can send us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast, talk about it, and we will bring it up in a future episode where we take people's questions. And that's it for this week. Next week we'll be back. We're going to have a special guest on. It's Tom Quee from the Alpha Metallica podcast. For all of you Metallica fans out there that listen to that, he's going to be on. We're going to be talking about the Reading UK Festival from 2006. It's a fun one. You're not going to want to miss it. It's a really good show. So with that being said, we are out of here. Anything else you want to bring to the table, John? Say goodbye to everybody.
Nope. Bye.
I miss you already, and I miss you always. And until the next episode, head on over to Patreon to listen to Leash, and we'll see you next time.